Are we all present and correct today? Yes? We've got two.
Chair, substituting for Councillor Marchington. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Alison Monroe and I'm substituting for Anthony Smith.
I'm Councillor Arthur. I'm subbing for Councillor Paul Davies.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Sokol.
Can I apology from Councillor Mohammed Sarwar? Yeah.
Is that it then? Right. We'll move on then to item 2, minutes of previous meeting. Somebody prepared to move them? Yes. Is that seconded? All in favour, please show. Thank you. Interest and lobbying.
Yes, Chairman. I have an interest in item 14, which I've discussed with the officers. One of the persons written as a witness to the public right of way, Mike Woodward. I've known him for 35 years, but in my opinion, it doesn't prejudice my decision in this case, because I didn't know he was going to lobby on this at all. And again, and as regards lobbying, I think he's lobbied all the members with his evidence to all of us. So I've taken no action on that. So I've got another interest that I've known him for 35 years. I don't think it's going to prejudice my decision, and I've been lobbied by him, but all the members have, and I've taken no action on that.
That's fine, thank you. Anything? Nothing? No. Councillor Patrick? No. Councillor Monroe?
I have none. Thank you.
Councillor Lawson?
None, Chair. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, Chair, I got an email from Councillor, not Councillor, Mike Ward, but I haven't given any response back. Thank you.
Councillor Butt? Councillor Ola?
Thank you, Chair. Application 2018-91330, Newhouse Farm, no action taken. And application in relation to the definitive map, I received an email, no action taken. Thank you.
Councillor Homewood?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, application 2018-91300, the Newhouse Farm one. I've been lobbied by objectors on a number of occasions over the last 12 months over the phone and in face-to-face. I've also been lobbied by the applicants on a number of occasions as well and spoken to them. And I've also been at meetings and ward forums where the application has been discussed. I haven't given any advice other than to explain the planning process to individuals. And I've also had an email in relation to page 33 to 42 from Mike Woodward, as others have said as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Opal?
Thank you, Chair. Same as Councillor Homewood in terms of page 43 to 66, Newhouse Farm. Lobbied by both the applicant and objectors, and have been to meetings with both. No advice or action taken, but I have explained the process. And just for full transparency, when it was my election campaign last year, members of the Godwara Committee and also some of the objectives delivered my leaflet, so I just wanted to make that clear. And an email in relation to page 33 to 42 from Mike Woodward, no action or advice taken.
Councillor Griffiths?
Thank you, Chair. I've received an email referring to 2018-91300, no action taken, and I've also received an email from Mike Woodward regarding the public right-of-way, and again, no action taken.
Thank you. And I've had two emails, page 43 and 87. Move on then to item 4, admission of the public. The public are here, yes. deputations petitions. Public question time? Notes. Site visits, and then local authority appeal.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Teresa Harlow, Team Leader, Development Management. There are 5 appeals reported to this committee. 4 of those were allowed. 2 of those were subcommittee decisions contrary to officer recommendation. The other 2 were officer recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So now we move on to the planning applications. First of all, we've got page 31. Sorry, on to 33, application for 4 definitive map modification orders. And that's Giles and page 33.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, my name is Giles Cheetham and I work for the Council on Public Rights of Way matters. This item is a report for a subcommittee decision on whether public rights of way subsist or are reasonably alleged to subsist in relation to evidence discovered and 4 applications received for orders to modify the formal record of public rights of way held by the Council. These orders are called Definitive Map Modification Orders, or DMMO. The applications concern routes linking 4 points around playing fields near Highfields between Huddersfield Public Footpath 343, Clare Hill and the back of Cambridge Road, as shown in Appendix A and Appended Plan 1 and on the screen at the moment, and as shown on site this morning. Since the report was published, members have received an update which includes a statement from the applicant, from a Mr M Woodward, and a landowner statement from the Council as landowner. So those have been provided in the member update with officer notes. All land affected by the application was once part of Huddersfield Corporation's Ramsden estate from 1920. The Council as landowner has stated to us that the Clare Hill LLP land, which is the land the last few metres just before you get to Clare Hill, which is at the far end of the field from where we were this morning. So the Council landowner stated that this land was sold by the Council in 1998, and that is a housing developer, mainly social housing, and that the Greenhead College land was transferred in 1993 under the Further and Higher Provisions Act of 1992. In 2019, the Council has subsequently bought back part of the Greenhead College land, as shown in Appendix App C. The Council as landowner has stated that use as playing fields dates back from the mid-50s and the mid-60s. The Council as landowner has not accepted that public rights subsist over its land, and the same is true with Greenhead College. Clare Hill LLP, the remaining landowner, has not responded to our inquiries. The decision for this report is in relation to the Council's role as surveying authority for public rights of way, the desirability of a path or the potential benefit of a path or the existence of the Council following walking initiatives or the proposed future use of land associated with this application are not material considerations in determining these DMMO applications, other than as far as they relate to any evidence of a previous dedication of public rights. Since the application was made, officers have invited further submissions of evidence from the applicant, as he noted in his application forms, which you can see at A. Officers consider that there is insufficient evidence before members of such a dedication taking place, or even a reasonable allegation of such a dedication taking place. We have recommended refusal of the 4 DMMO applications. The applicant would have a right to appeal to the Secretary of State at DEFRA against the committee's decision of refusal if that follows officer recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
We have Jonathan Adamson. He's going to be first reading out a statement on behalf of Mike Woodward, followed by his own 3-minute presentation. Back from this thing here too?
Okay, I'm going with Mike Woodward's statement first. It's too long for the 3 minutes, so I'm just going to read part of it. I know that you will have looked at the whole statement because it was included in the package, as indeed my statement should have been included too, although that didn't seem to be flagged up by Giles. The Council has recently published proposals for improving the A629 Halifax Road. The road is already very busy, and the junction with Blacker Road is one of 9 air quality management areas in Kirklees where the authority is obliged to take action. The improvements planned for Halifax Road are intended to increase the flow of traffic even further. The Council also published proposals for pedestrians and cyclists in relation to the Halifax Road scheme. My understanding is that it is obliged by statute to do so. The proposals acknowledge that the A629 Halifax Road is so busy with road traffic and the air is so polluted that it would not be appropriate to encourage walking and cycling along Halifax Road. Instead, the Council is proposing that pedestrians be given routes on both sides of Halifax Road on quieter residential streets or along green corridors that run parallel to the A629. One proposed pedestrian route runs right alongside the new school. It connects directly with the claim footpaths now being considered. If the Council is genuine about promoting and encouraging facilities for pedestrians alongside Halifax Road, then it must surely acknowledge that the claim footpaths, together with the current access from Cemetery Road, should be retained. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll now move on to my statement. There's a reference here to the community orchard at the bottom of Cemetery Road. I can start. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that a couple of hours ago you walked through that cemetery to the point where you looked at Highfield, looked at the routes of the footpaths. Members of the committee, I have been told the first 3 paragraphs of this statement are irrelevant. Nevertheless, my footpath applications are in support of a better new school and the continuing optimum enjoyment by the public of Highfield's urban green space designated in the Kirklees local plan. In my opinion, one of the most significant oversights of the Academy plan is the exclusion of the existing direct footpath route from Cemetery Road Community Orchard to the playing fields. To gain access to the playing fields from Cemetery Road, once the school is built, the public will have to walk round the whole length of the school site. There is no dispute the playing fields are also a public open space. I, myself, have regularly walked across the fields for at least 35 years. The officer's report provides the following evidence. 1. The submitted footpaths well-trodden access points. 2. The bars cut out at the Clare Hill steel gate to allow pedestrian access. 3. The 1893, 1906 and 1918 Ordnance Survey maps, which show a cluster of buildings with access routes on the playing fields. 4. The 1985 Ordnance Survey map, which shows a track now just inside Cemetery Road allotments, running parallel to approximately half of claimed right-of-way 208. The officer's report provides ample evidence for claimed rights-of-way, which can be clearly seen along the edge of the playing fields when the grass is wet or when the fields are not newly mown?
30 seconds.
Thank you. Although I've changed that statement very slightly since yesterday, the substance of it hasn't changed. And I'm sure that you've all read it as part of the package you've been given earlier today.
We have Andy Dunlop.
Good afternoon, councillors. My name is Andrew Dunlop. I'm a rights of way consultant. You've today received 20 pages of addendums to the minutes which you've been provided with. Hopefully you've all read those. Kirklees Council has a priority matrix to deal with its public rights of way applications. There are 139 applications outstanding, and surprisingly, these 4 applications were submitted in January, and 5 months later they've been determined, despite the council's list having outstanding applications dating back to 1988, and there being 7 applications where you've been directed to determine them by the Secretary of State, and you haven't done, even though some of those are 18 months old. I'm concerned that this is being rushed through. Sure. I'm concerned that this is being rushed through without full consideration being given. Certainly the officer's report, which is meant to consider all relevant evidence, does not consider all relevant evidence. The applicant has come forward yesterday, and you've seen the documents today, saying there is more relevant evidence. He has made a reasonable allegation, and that's the only test you need to stick to. Has he made a reasonable allegation? If you think he has, then you must make the orders. If you think he hasn't made a reasonable allegation, it's because you've not read all the documents which only arrived on your desk this morning. And in that case, you should adjourn this for a number of months until you have read the evidence that he's put forward. Thank you.
Members. Councillor Griffiths.
Yeah, well, we did visit the site this morning, and one of the things I would look for on a footpath application is evidence of footsteps, and I could see none around the outside of that playing field.
Nobody else? Councillor Homewood.
Well, just to say, I'm a little bit confused as to the evidence. If there is evidence, I'm not quite sure why. If there's more evidence, why it hasn't been provided so that it could be reviewed by the applicant. You know, I don't. Well, I suppose all I'm saying is, you know, why would we delay our decision if we've had the opportunity to have that submitted and it hasn't been submitted? Thank you.
Through you, Chair. A couple of things. And just pick up. Mr. Adamson said I hadn't referred to his statement. I did refer to his statement. I said a statement we received from the applicant and one from Mr. Woodward, and evidence we received from the council as the landowner. So you did receive that in the update, and you received the officer notes on it. In relation to that, if I can just go through the evidence. Mr. Dunlop mentioned 20 pages of evidence. That's basically the update. It's not necessarily evidence. It's not necessarily all relevant evidence. And I've offered a comment on that for members. But if I can just go through that. In relation to Mr. Woodward's submission, which was read out, officers would note that to make a decision to make an order to add a public footpath to the formal record, there has to be sufficient evidence of public use of a particular route or routes in circumstances described in the officer report. There is a paucity of such evidence of public user, or where they went, or how often, or over what time period. On Mr. Woodward's second group of points, the desirability or convenience of a public footpath connection is not something that the Council may take into account in making a decision on these DMMO applications. The existence of recorded definitive Huddersfield Public Footpath 343, which runs to the west of the field and connects Cemetery Road to Cambridge Road and Highfields, is not in question here. I'll just bring that up we may just bring that up. And this is just to clarify. So this is an extract of the definitive map. So this is the record to which the routes are sought to be added. Up at the top left of that picture is the path where it starts at the bottom of Cemetery Road. So there's a recorded public footpath that runs from Cemetery Road around the site along the top of the playing fields, and then it splits in three. One goes back to Halifax Road, one goes straight onto Highfields towards town, and one turns left towards Cambridge Road. So there's no question in what's being discussed today or in the application regarding the existence of those paths. So in relation to matters of public access, there is there anyway, even though it's not relevant to the question. But also I would say it is not inconsistent for the Council to support walking and cycling initiatives and at the same time, as surveying authority for public rights of way, consider the evidence relating to alleged public rights of way. Generally, the benefits of public access may be considered by the Council in other public rights of way decisions, or in planning decisions, for example, or in how the vested services in the Council decides to manage its own land. The subcommittee's decision on this agenda item is to be made on the evidence relating to whether public rights of way already exist across the playing fields. In relation to Mr Adamson's statement, basically say that, as noted in the report, relevant matters in the decision relate to the potential existence of unrecorded public rights of way, and the desirability of future provision in development schemes is not relevant. Also, that in relation to statutory requirements, there may well be other statutory requirements in which the Council has to comply, but those statutory requirements are not evidence of the existence of public rights of way. And then the other major part of the documentation that was provided is the landowner statement from the Council. 6 pages are provided there, and officers would note that its contents do not provide evidence to affect the report recommendations, and that the Council as landowner has not accepted the existence of public rights as alleged. I don't think that a decision is prejudiced or is not possible today because of the provision of the update to members yesterday. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Patrick.
Right, thank you. I feel at a great disadvantage with this because I'm not familiar with the site at all. And when we went on the site visit this morning, I could see that the playing field had been mowed within an inch of its life. I only wish our playing fields in Home Valley South were mowed so closely and given such great attention, because if there was any surface evidence that those routes were being walked, then they were taken out by the mower. So I was a little bit disappointed to see that a site visit was a bit of a waste of time. And I do speak as somebody it's not my area, so whilst fellow councillors in front of me can nod their heads, this is what I'm seeing and it's based on evidence. So we've got one person who's made the suggestion that there's public rights of way, and if the advice from the consultant is that that is a reasonable allegation, then that's the case. Then I think it's not as clear cut as it may seem. One of the things that does disappoint me about this whole saga actually is that I would have liked to have seen the council actually create a path link across there as part of this redevelopment. I think it would have been good for the council to do that, but I realise that's not what we're at today. That's not what we're looking at today. But I think a caring council could have done that, particularly the path across the north part. So I'm in a situation at the moment where I don't think there's anything sufficient in front of us to actually make a decision, and I would move deferral.
Through you, Chair. The officer report appendices included aerial photos from 2000 to 2018 in relation to any lines of tread. I think fundamentally the issue here, and I'll just say this quite clearly, is that officers are not saying that there is definitely not a public right-of-way across this site. Officers are not saying that there could not be a public right-of-way across this site. The officer recommendation is that there is clearly insufficient evidence either to show that there is or that there is a reasonable allegation. One of the points being about that is that a public right-of-way follows a specific route or a number of specific routes. We have not received a single evidence form, a user evidence form, marking up the existence of the route other than the application plan itself. Not a single one. So a decision to make, as suggested by Mr Dunlop, the question will be what route is suggested. If it's the application routes, what evidence is there to make a reasonable allegation that there is a public right-of-way over the application routes, as opposed to over some other route across the field, or whether it was just general walking across the field, or whether people were going onto the field to walk dogs and fly kites and have barbecues or whatever. The question is whether a right-of-way has been established or is reasonably alleged to have been established over specific route, and that the evidence demonstrates that. And that is the basis for that. And for what it's worth, I would disagree with Mr Dunlop's assessment. Thank you.
Councillor Sokol, I beg your pardon. Do you mind? Order. You're out of order. Please remove yourself.
Can you be quiet, please?
Can you remove yourself, please? Be quiet. Councillor Sokol.
There is one more thing I should say. This application...
You're wasting your time and our time.
The buildings of the school in any way. It has got nothing to do with the building of the school.
Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. This application comes in my ward, which is Greenhead ward. Yeah. The issue of this right of way, it only comes up or raised by some people when there was a proposed school building was going to be there. If a person has been walking on those footpath right of way for 35 years, why that did not ask the local authority to record the right of way footpath there? Why is now? I don't think so. The officer, sorry, I missed, the officer have written to the applicant twice to provide any evidence, but the evidence was not provided by the applicant. Yeah. So officer come to the conclusion because the officer haven't got any sufficient evidence to prove there was a right of way there. So no.
Address this officer's report, please.
Yeah. I got sympathy with people. I want some right of way where they are, but where there is no right of way, how we can support there. Yeah, we need evidence. Council officer need evidence. I don't want to delay this. I don't want to defer this application because complication will be a new school which is going to be. In my ward, people keeping their children at home because they're not getting school admission. Yeah, I don't want to delay this application. I need to support the officer recommendation.
Are you moving that, Councillor?
I'm moving to.
Is that seconded? Yeah. Seconded, Councillor. All those in favour, please show.
Hands raised, please. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4.
Against? Abstentions? Thank you.
Application is refused.
We move on then to page 43. New House Farm, New House Road, Sheepridge.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Emma Thompson. I'm the officer presenting this application today. Members have a full report and update in front of them and have had the benefit of a site visit this morning. The application was originally brought to subcommittee on the 1st of November 2018 as a result of representations received. The resolution was to approve the application subject to conditions as outlined fully in the report. Following this resolution, the applicants raised concerns regarding the restrictions posed by the decision, more specifically the opening hours and number of attendees, which was restricted to 25. The application now seeks permission to change the use of the existing building to a Sikh place of worship and centre for the community, which falls under the use class D1 non-residential institution. The applicants have agreed to limit numbers to 120. As a result in this increase and associated intensification in use of the site, additional information was requested to address concerns. This includes a noise assessment and highway statements. The proposals have been assessed taking into account the latest information. No physical alterations are required to the building. The development includes the formation of formalised car parking, landscape works and the erection of a 2.5 metre high acoustic fence shown by the green line. This is required to mitigate against the potential of noise nuisance as a result of the increase in hours of operation, as outlined at paragraph 3.6 of your report. As members saw on site this morning, the site lies in close proximity to New House Hall, a Grade 2 star listed building. The site is located in an area allocated as urban green space and meets policy insofar as there will be a continuation and enhancement of the existing use. The provision of community facilities should be provided in accessible locations. Such locations are normally considered as town or local centres unless they are meeting a community need and do not prejudice amenity or highway safety. Matters in this respect are considered and have been addressed satisfactorily. The site lies adjacent to a listed building and as such any proposal should have regard for its setting. Setting doesn't just include physical and visual links but also any wider social, economic and historical connections. The intensification in the use of the site will bring additional activity, the parking of up to 33 vehicles and the physical separation of the two sites by a 2.5 metre acoustic fence. As mentioned, the fence is necessary to prevent an unacceptable loss to the residential amenities of the nearby occupiers, and the intensification of use could not be supported in principle without it. The fence has been set into the boundary as far as is practicable in order to maintain space between it and the existing public right-of-way and listed building opposite. The applicants have also confirmed that the fence will be covered with ivy to soften its appearance in the wooded area. Sustainable development under the NPPF can have important positive impacts on heritage and their settings. However, the economic and social viability of a heritage asset can be diminished if its setting is reduced by insensitively located development. With the exception of matters relating to the impact on the setting of the listed building, the alterations to the site as a whole are considered to meet policy requirements. The scale of development and inclusion of measures to enhance the site promote good design and respect the townscape and semi-rural character. However, concerns remain regarding the relation of the site to the Grade 2 star listed building to the east of the site. The NPPF states that when considering the impact of new development on the significance of a designated heritage asset, great weight should be given to its conservation. Any harm to or loss of the significance of a designated heritage asset from development within its setting should require clear and convincing justification. Where the harm is considered to be less than substantial, that harm should be weighed against the public benefit of the proposal. The applicants have aimed to address officer concerns regarding the development by restricting the number of attendees on the site, thereby reducing the scale of car parking required, which as a result facilitates the relocation of the fence into the site, in addition to the provision of landscaping and additional planting. Officers have assessed the impact that the development would have on the heritage asset and concluded that the intensification of use of the site, alterations required including the acoustic fence, would fail to preserve the setting. Any harm to the significance of a heritage asset requires clear and convincing justification as mentioned, and this should be weighed against the public benefit. The local planning authority should require this for any harm. The scale of the development proposed has been determined by the requirements of the applicant. Taking into account the scheme proposed and relocation of the fence, it's considered that development would result in less than substantial harm, which would require justification and would weigh against the public benefits. As mentioned, the applicants have aimed to address these remaining concerns, including outlining a number of wider public benefits as mentioned in 10.15 of your report. It's recognised that the development proposals offer community benefit in terms of the provision of a place of worship, in addition to ancillary events, and these should be weighed against the harm that would result from the works proposed. In addition, the bringing back of the site into use would provide inherent surveillance of the public right-of-way, and the likelihood this could reduce instances of antisocial behaviour. It would also bring a currently vacant building back into economic use. However, on balance, concerns remain regarding the impact on the setting of the listed building. Whilst very much balanced in this instance, considered the wider public benefits of the scheme proposed and not considered to outweigh the harm in this instance, and the recommendation is for refusal as outlined in the report. Nothing further to add, Chair.
Quite a number of speakers for this one. First one we have is Howard Belafonte, who objects to the application.
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Howard Belafonte. I am the Centre Manager for the Northfield Hall Community Centre. Northfield Hall has been open since 2012. I've been working in the Asper Ward for the past 25 years. So I work with the community for community provisions. Now this application will impact on existing services. It's got absolutely no community benefit for the community. A lot of the things what's in the application, there's things in the community already. There's provisions in the community. We've got 4 community buildings in close proximity with each other, as well as the Deaton Centre. Them 5 buildings cover all the community needs in the Asper Ward. For the existing provision for older people, we've got classes running at the Chestnut Centre, we've got classes running at Northfield Hall, we've got classes running at the Top Club. That's 3 of our community buildings. We've got youth provision at the Chestnut Centre, at Northfield Hall. This application will have an impact on our community buildings. There's work ongoing with the community, with the new emerging communities that have moved into the area. We've got provisions for them. The application has not at any point engaged with any existing groups. There's been no consultation with no community groups, no individuals. The Asper Ward has a community hub which meet every month to discuss things within the community and provision within the community and improving provisions in the community. At no point has the application
30 seconds.
Engaged with anyone from the local community about provisions, existing provisions or provisions what are needed. There's no parking facilities around the building what they're proposing. The access route is not easy to get to, and it just wouldn't be a good application for the community.
Thank you. Your time's up now.
Yeah.
We have Robin von Witt, who's speaking on behalf of Michael Hilton.
just bear with me a moment. So as I've said, I'm reading on behalf of Mike Hilton, who can't be here for health reasons. I've been asked to comment on access for fire appliances to the proposed development at Newhouse Farm. I believe I am qualified to make this assessment, given that I have served for 30 years in the Fire and Rescue Service in all ranks, including Area Commander. The vast majority of my service was around the Kirklees area. I am commenting on the provision of access for fire appliances, not only and not on any other matters which would affect the planning application. The original application, on the original application, the plan showed provision was made for fire appliance turning circles, which the Fire and Rescue Service specify in their advice on the document dated 20th of the 5th, 2016. The resubmitted application indicates the resubmitted application increases the allocated parking spaces within the designated car park, but there is now no provision for fire appliances to turn around on either the day-to-day car parking plan or the overflow car parking plan. This is in direct breach of FRS guidance and Building Regulations Approved Document B, Volume 12, Section B5. In addition to the lack of turning provision, I believe that access to the site will be very difficult in each of the planned scenarios for the following reason. At maximum capacity of 200 people, with the overflow car park system in use, cars may block the access road, which will make it more difficult for fire appliances to get any nearer to the building than Newhouse Road. In the event of a fire, lives may be lost, given that all equipment such as ladders and firefighting equipment will have to be carried up the road to access the building. The latest pump and high reach appliances will have even more problems of access due to their increased size. On both of the revised plans, no provision was made for fire appliance turning circles, which is a requirement. It has been my experience over the years that when car parks are full, people will park at the side of the road as near as possible to the venue without a thought for the access of emergency vehicles. Newhouse Road is a single-track, unmade road, and if cars are parked alongside this road, it could further hinder access to the premises for emergency vehicles. In conclusion, given my years of experience in the Fire and Rescue Service, I feel that the proposed parking and access management plans are contrary to the accepted practice and dangerous to the public, firefighters and residents of the adjacent houses. There's a further appendix. This report was prepared in response to the additional statement submitted by the HDC support in May 2019 in support of the planning application. Firstly, the wrong information is quoted in the additional statement provided by HDC Support Limited. Reference is made in the statement to the access for pumping appliances within 45 metres of a single family house. This information is taken from Building Regulations Approved Document B, Volume 1, Dwelling Houses. Given that the application is...
Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Penny Wainberg, theoretically resident of West Wing Newhouse Hall. As I hope you're aware, Newhouse Hall is not currently occupiable after a disastrous fire, but should we be able to return, my house occupies the entire side of Newhouse Hall, which faces towards the applicant area. The proposed fence would greatly take away from what we currently have and would be quite oppressive and close, while simultaneously giving us absolutely no benefit, as a 2.5 metre fence may create some softening of the sound to the ground floor residential, but as cars are planning to be coming and going from 4 AM every morning all week, a 2.5 metre fence will do nothing to stop that noise coming in the bedroom windows on the first floor and above, which, as a listed building, these are single glazed windows, and I suspect that the noise statement assumed a normal level of insulation within the residential near buildings, which is not the case with the historic building. So the noise would be coming in to a greater extent and would not be softened, And I think the proposed opening hours of over 100 hours a week and coming and going at 4 a.m. every morning are just not in any way suitable for a residential setting. The cars would be coming up and down the lane past other residences that haven't even been mentioned outside the school. That currently no cars drive past them at 4 a.m. and this is 7 days a week, cars coming and going at 4 a.m. I just think that, as proposed, the opening hours are entirely antisocial and inappropriate. I'd like to add to what Howard said, for clarity, that if services offered duplicate those already available, then you just end up with neither services being viable. If you have 15 kids wanting to go to a scout group, then you end up with 8 kids here, 8 kids there, and both scout groups close. If they want to do something for the community, they could be involved, actively supporting existing provision, engaging with the local community, seeing what services are needed in keeping with Kirklees' big question, not just coming with assumed need. So thank you, and I hope you'll listen to what our community wants.
Hi everybody, my name's Margaret Lees and I've been a resident in Brackenhall, not Sheepridge, in Brackenhall since 1956. So I think I know a little bit about the area and a bit about the environment. And what I want to say is, although you know, we're looking out, if those of you that have been today, and if you stand at the end of that lane and you look up, it's a peaceful, tranquil place. There's plenty of children go that way, home from school, because they live at Bradley, which is at the top of the woods. They come down to school. A fence of that, solid fence, can be a very intimidating thing. And I know that for a fact, because when they were doing the modernisation in Brackenhall, they closed off part of the road and they put out a solid fence that we had to walk through as a snicket, basically, which was very intimidating, and it will be for children. Plus the fact that it will make that area less tranquil, damage the trees that are already there. People can say they won't touch the trees, but they will, because I've seen it happen over the years. There is lots and lots of wildlife use that lane, and if you go up early morning, probably 6 o'clock-ish, going up that lane, you will see the squirrels, you will see the other animals running across from one side to another on the way from the woods down the lane, foraging for food. I also worry that they're saying 120 people at a time with parking spaces for 30 cars. No one can guarantee that each car is going to have 4 people in that car, which is your 130. What I would like to know is what happens at an event where 150 people turn up. What do they do? And say 40 cars. What do they do? Say, sorry, you can't come in, it's now full. We have events at the community centre where there's 300 people there of Indian weddings, and cars are parked all up the road. It's worrying that that part of the area is going to be ruined by noise.
30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Noise from 4 a.m. I don't live near it. I'm lucky, if I like to say that. But I have friends that live close. I have all elderly people that live opposite the school. And they're worried. The fact of cars going down that lane, down the Bradley Boulevard and that lane at that time in the morning. And I do think that you need to really think about it before you accept this application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheila Bin.
Hi, my name is Sheila Vince, and I've lived in Sheepridge for 56 years. So I know quite a bit about the area. And the residents is very concerned about the capability of these applications. Right from the start, there's been big changes. First, they asked for a 5-foot fence. Then, we get an 8-foot fence, solid security fence, they tell us, to cut the noise down, which it won't, because noise doesn't follow, the sound doesn't follow in a straight line. I know this from having to listen a few days ago to Take That. Not by choice, may I add. And it didn't stop at my 6-foot fence, it came right into my living room. So the fence won't work. It will just distract from the historical setting of New House Hall. I also worry whether you've taken into consideration the family living in New House Hall. The children there, one as young as 2-year-old. What impact is the vehicles and noise going to have from the temple at 4 o'clock in the morning? This is very worrying to us all, as children and families use the lane quite regular, coming and going from school. And I really think that you should think very carefully about accepting this application, because it's going to have a great impact on all of us. Thank you.
I'm flying a bit by the seats of my pants because of previous speakers really making very valid points that I wanted to raise. I would like to follow on at the beginning from what Robin said about Mike Hilton's report, and which was cut short due to the time restrictions. It's Class D1. The correct information should have been taken from Building Regulation Approved Document B, Fire Safety Volume 2, Buildings Other than Dwelling Houses. So that was the consultant's report from HDC, and it's obviously not correct. I also note from the latest plan that is Michael Hilton speaking, obviously, that no account has been taken for fire appliances to turn around in the car park. This was originally provided in the first planning application, can be seen on Plan 1 of my original submission. This is contrary to Building Regulations Approved Document B, Volume 2, Buildings Other than Dwelling Houses, Section B, Paragraph 156, which states, turning facilities should be provided in any dead-end access route that is more than 20 meters long. This can be a hammerhead or turning circle designed on the basis of Table 20. The travel distance into the dead end is stated by HDC support limit to be approximately 40 meters, which is double the distance which would require that a turning circle must be provided. So, if the plan shown in the HDC Limited Appendix 1 is agreed, it would be in direct conflict to building regulations and pose a risk to persons using that building in the event of a fire. And Mr. Elton offers to be available for questions at a date at your convenience, but he can't make it today. If you also look at the plan, the fence creates on the right-hand lane at the side of the access route to number 2 Newhouse Hall, a dead end which is about 50 meters with no way of the fire ambulances to turn or fire fighters to work efficiently. Can I also say, I wanted to make a point about the community engagement. Howard has listed a long list of community facilities that's available in it's a list that long. I tried to read it, it took me longer than 3 minutes. That's available already. The applicants unfortunately have not engaged with the community so far. Interesting to note that the key private property sign that is prominently displayed all the time miraculously disappears on the day the committee visits for a site visit. The Council Design and Development Officer, Nigel Shonton, said, I fail to see any public benefit in this case. And I have to agree with it, and so do the approximately 1,200 people who have consistently objected to this
Thank you.
application.
Your time's up. Thank you.
We have Darrell from Midwich.
Good afternoon, Darrell von Mickwitz, normally occupier of number 1 Newhouse Hall, currently Newhouse Yurt. I'll not go into legislation here, as I'm sure you'll have it to hand, apart from to state that Newhouse retains its high listing in spite of the fire, and that as a building at risk attracts further protection under the UNESCO agreement, which regards it to be as important as the Syrian temples. Burley House, Nostell Priory, Newhouse Hall have one thing in common, their great 2-starred listing. Would we even be contemplating building a 2.5 high metre solid fence and car park 15 metres away from Nostell Priory or Burley Hall? I think not. So what's the difference here? Could it be that Newhouse is at Bracken Hall and that it's a small house in comparison to its peers? The house of an ordinary man, built by a man who pulled himself up by his own bootstraps, an ordinary man like you and I. If so, I would argue that we have the right to our history and to the preservation of our historic buildings and their settings, which form part of that history, in just the same way as the aristocracy have the right to theirs. Miraculously, the immediate setting of Newhouse remains intact, as it would have been when the house was built. Fields to the front side, a lane to access the house and its home farm, and the ancient woodland beyond it. It is still very easy to interpret the setting, its landscape and development, since the farmyard is still an open space. It is extremely rare that such a complete setting for a house of this type still exists in industrial West Yorkshire, which is, in part, the reason Newhouse attracts such a high listing. Newhouse, with its intact setting, is absolutely unique in the Ashbrow ward, rare in Kirklees and very unusual in developed West Yorkshire, so much so that it's regarded to be of importance for the whole of the north of England. In contrast, the Temple Community Centre and what is to be offered there is in no way unique to the Ashbrow ward. Neither is it rare in Kirklees, and certainly not very unusual in West Yorkshire. In fact, everything, including seat worship, is readily available throughout the area. Please don't allow the destruction of what little we have of value in the Ashbrow ward. Be proud for Kirklees, its outstanding building and its setting remain, and are so much loved by the people of Bracken Hall, who have remained steadfast in their objections to this development throughout the past year. Please follow the officer's advice, who considers that public benefit does not outweigh the harm caused in this case, and the advice of our conservation officer, who says he fails to see any public benefit in this case. So please refuse this application. Thank you.
Suki Singh, who's speaking in support of the application. Malcolm, you go first? Yeah. Okay. Right.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My name is Malcolm Sizer. I'm a planning consultant acting on behalf of the applicants. I hope you've had a chance to read the comments received by the Council in support of the application as set out in the report's update, unfortunately omitted from the main report. Following the meeting of the subcommittee on the 1st of November last year, when you delegated approval to officers, much discussion has taken place on issues of concern. These issues have been resolved with officers. There will be a maximum number of 120 attendees at any one time. As such, the parking requirement of 33 spaces can be met. We have clearly set out anticipated number of people attending at any one time, such that for the vast majority of the time, and especially during antisocial hours, there will be little activity. We have now reached the situation where the only critical issue, so far as officers are concerned, is the impact of the wooden acoustic fence. We've worked hard to soften its impact. It is to be set in from the boundary of the public footpath. Between the two, planting will be undertaken in accordance with a scheme to be agreed with officers to mitigate the impact of the fence, including the planting of ivy to grow up and cover it. It should be noted that the fence as now proposed will be only 3 feet higher than the metal fence agreed by yourselves in November, which was to run immediately alongside the public footpath. I would urge you to accept that the more attractive fence as now proposed, set in from the footpath and with appropriate screen planting, is far preferable. In their recommendation for refusal, officers feel, and I stress on balance, that the detriment caused by the development is not outweighed by public benefits. You will hear shortly about the range of benefits which will accrue once the Gurdwara is up and running. We consider that those benefits are such as to outweigh the less than substantial harm to the setting of Newhouse Hall identified by officers. As such, I would urge
30 seconds.
As such, I would urge you not to accept the recommendation to refuse, but to delegate to officers the decision to approve the application subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Good afternoon all. My name is Harnaik Singh. I'm a community sevadar, which is basically a volunteer. There isn't a Gurdwara in the area, and that's why one of the reasons why we made this proposal. But in order to better comprehend our project, one first needs to understand the purpose of a Gurdwara, not a temple. Because the word Gurdwara means the door to the Guru. Through the Guru, one seeks to merge with the One Almighty that showers His blessings 24/7 on all that we are and all that we see. So, we all are part of the One. And therefore, we do not differentiate between religions and colours and ethnicities and things like that. Just the One. A Gurdwara is a place of assembly and worship for Sikhs. People from all faiths and those who do not profess any faith are welcomed. And that's a big example by probably the most well-known Gurdwara, which most people sadly only know it as the Golden Temple. The Darbar Sahib in Amritsar has 4 doorways. It's specifically designed by the Guru to make sure it opens doors to everybody. I remember the first time I took our children to the Punjab, to Amritsar, my children were pointing out, "Oh, they're not Sikhs, they're not Sikhs." And so, well, it's open to everybody. That's how it is. And that's what all Gurdwaras are. They are open to everybody. Each Gurdwara has a Darbar Sahib, which is obviously the name that we tend to refer to the Golden Temple. And that Darbar Sahib is the main praying area, where the current everlasting Guru Sahib, Guru Granth Sahib, is throned. It's placed on an elevated throne in the centre of the praying hall. The Guru Granth Sahib is basically scriptures that have been written by the Gurus and assembled by the Gurus, and also saints from other religions, particularly the Muslim religion and the Hindu religion. Those saints have had their scriptures assembled within the Guru Granth Sahib to make what we refer to as not, I dare say, for example, as a book, but is the living Guru. The Guru the Sikhs want to make sure that we meditate on the name, which is Naam Jap, which is Vaheguru, or Satnam, any name you want to make sure you connect with the One. Kirtan, make sure that all Sikhs have working lives and families, not live as monks and nuns, and make sure that everything we have is shared with all, not just the Sikhs.
Thank you, Yutanja.
Hi, my name is Jasbinder Kaur, and I'm reading this statement on behalf of... Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. And she does send her apologies. Jane Simpson says she's lived at Newhouse Bungalow on Newhouse Road near... Can I just reiterate, this is next door to the temple. For over 16 years, as outlined in our previous letters of support and statement in the last planning committee, we have encountered many instances of antisocial behaviour over those years. When the Sikh community first bought Newhouse Farm, the grounds and the lane were in a terrible state. Overgrown brambles and rubbish were commonplace, as well as drug paraphernalia and drug dealing. Littering and fly tipping were a persistent problem, often dumped in the early hours of the morning. My husband and I have picked up litter nearly every week for the last 16 years. Along with the Sikh community, we also take the view that if the lane looks clean and tidy, we are all less likely to encounter any antisocial behaviour and further incidents of fly tipping. Last year, the Sikh community paid landscape gardeners to clear the land on each side of the lane of weeds, brambles and overhanging branches which were projecting into the lane, so that people could pass safely. Consequently, it is now much safer for all pedestrians when cars and lorries are driving down the lane. We ourselves continue to mow and maintain the grass area of the opposite of our bungalow in agreement with the community. Since the area has been cleared and the temporary fences have been erected, we have not had one incident of fly tipping in the lane. Unfortunately, it is now occurring by the turning circle opposite the main entrance to Lady of Lords School. I have a couple of additional points I would like to make. There seems to be a marked difference in treatment of this application compared to others of a similar religious nature. The local religious community centre, Northfield Hall, is nearly half a mile away. It is located within metres of numerous dwellings. Music events are occasionally held there and can be clearly heard all over the housing estate, including Newhouse Road.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Thank you.
My name is Gorinda Atwal, and I'm a member of the Sikh congregation here today and a voice as a working mum. I also run a small registered local charity that is 8 years old that supports children between the ages of 4 and 14. Newhouse Farm has been our chosen venue for the very reasons that the opposition have highlighted in some of their reasons for rejecting our application. The ancient woodland and its natural surroundings are something we are not only passionate about, but also wish to continue to protect. It is the core part of our Sikh values. Alongside this, we are hoping to enhance the surrounding area to Newhouse Farm to create a further friendly green space to attract wildlife and nature in keeping with required guidelines. We are already involved in local community events and support and work with the local community policing and supporting those who are currently going through vulnerable times via the Methodist Mission, a valuable learning curve for all communities to build life skills in the next generation. Reference has been made in the objections to wedding receptions, music and large amounts of noise and traffic flow. I feel that there has been a great misrepresentation of the true facts of the Sikh faith. Sikh weddings in the Sikh temple consist of a sit-down ceremony in a tranquil environment to allow the absorption of the meaning of marriage. Thereafter, the celebration would also be a sit-down meal. The reference in the objection is that of which of a reception hall, which is an alternative venue that is hired elsewhere. This is the general perception that has been referenced by way of the objection. This is very different to what the ceremony of the Sikh wedding part would be within the Sikh Gurdwara. Our purpose is to enhance the spiritual side of our faith with a request for New House Farm to be a space for our next generation to be able to be part of a community whereby we are looking forward. We are looking forward to you teaching us how to play dominoes, and in return, maybe we could knit a blanket together for the local hospital or share a cup of tea and a samosa.
30 seconds.
The last time the Sikh community requested a space in this town proceeds 20 years ago. Given the opportunity, you would see that we are a giving and sharing community. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Kaur Desai, and I will be discussing the issues of mental health, care of the elderly, and blood, organ and bone marrow donation, which is what we want to promote at the Gurdwara. Organ donation is an issue faced by everyone, but it particularly affects the Asian community. A rising proportion of people who die in need of a transplant is from a black, Asian or ethnic minority background. Latest figures show that only 7.3% of donors were from a BME background. This most certainly needs addressing. We want to drive change locally by increasing knowledge and understanding of organ donation and reducing the false stigma that surrounds these areas, which can only be done in a safe place, such as a Gurdwara, where people are willing to listen. I would hope this in turn would increase the uptake and make a huge contribution. Secondly, there is the elephant in the room, which is mental health in the Sikh community. People from minority ethnic communities face significant barriers to accessing psychological support, as many local areas lack culturally sensitive and tailored services which meet the diverse needs of this population. Secondly, people from these communities often first come into contact with mental health services at the acute stage of their condition, which is just too late. Research from the Royal College of Psychiatry indicates a place of worship can offer better self-control, self-esteem and confidence, faster and easier recovery, better relationships and hope and peace. Need I say more? The support present does not meet the needs of this community, and I don't think that in 2019 that is good enough. We want to help by collaborating with societies such as Seek Your Mind, who have done such valuable work and can assist in setting up workshops along with the Sikh faith, to raise awareness on how to seek help and therapy which works for them. Last but not least, I want to discuss the forgotten elderly Sikh population. In the objection document, I felt very frustrated and angry that the cultural sensitivities that prohibit this community in seeking out the local groups was not appreciated. I read a list of groups that apparently reach out to the Sikh community, but were predominantly catered towards an English-speaking active population. It is sad that the language and cultural barriers that face the elderly population and the Sikh community were not addressed, never mind appreciated. Why should the elderly Sikh population feel lonely and useless? Why is there not even national figures to address this? Why should they not have access to groups that cater for them in a culturally sensitive manner? Surely this is the right of every single elderly person in Huddersfield, and they should not be penalised for being who they are. Finally, as a doctor, I want to see this community have the same access to the services everyone has. As a mother of 2 young children, I want there to be cultural sensitivity and acceptance to show them the inclusive world that we live in. And as a proud Sikh woman, I want to be able to instill the values of my religion into the community to make a more positive future for those who need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue Keating.
A new vision, a new Gurdwara, not only for Sikhs but the community. The application has progressed considerably since the last planning committee in November. We have worked hard to overcome issues, to accommodate new ideas and to ensure the new Gurdwara causes the least amount of disruption to neighbours, the woodland and the community. I personally believe the benefit of having a Gurdwara at this location outweighs the impact considerably. We have worked closely with Kirklees and their concerns to ensure decisions were made sympathetically, responsibly, fairly and with transparency. We feel as a minority in the community, our application would have progressed more positively if we were not faced with the propaganda of negative, incorrect lies and harassment to the local community to spoon-feed this unsubstantiated and disparaging information. We have felt hurt as a group and feel that the individuals responsible for this incorrect information must have a personal agenda to object to such a positive step to improve an unkept, derelict and neglected property back to life to serve the community. We feel the lack of knowledge of the Sikh faith, what a Gurdwara is, understanding the benefits to the wider community and what this Gurdwara's mission to be different has been disregarded. As my colleagues have mentioned, many positive initiatives are going to be implemented by this Gurdwara. More support for this application is paramount to bring this to fruition. These workshops, community ideas, would be fulfilled by the right experts in the specific fields and organised by the Gurdwara. The Gurdwara itself solely will fund this, as we realise the importance of these issues, which get frequently brushed under the carpet. As per the proposed timetable, it is visible that there will be minimal impact and activities in antisocial hours. It is clear that the timetable and number of attendees on what days and what times is ignored, and clearly cherry-pick the information to be counterproductive. 120 patrons in attendance at all times would be an exception, not the norm. As per the proposed we do not want a restriction on events, as this would be also counterproductive. We have conceded to 120 patrons, and this would be in accordance to all other places of worship. Finally, I open-heartedly ask you for a positive decision to be made today. We have fought morally, honourably and with dignity for a new vision, for a new Gurdwara, for future generations of the Sikh and local wider community. We have formed active relationships with many organisations, and if we're granted planning permission, we can turn our positive energy into working with local groups, local communities and collaborate to support to grow one another and to demonstrate to the community that the commitment we made is being fulfilled wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Members. Councillor McGuinn, then Councillor Uppel, then Councillor Holmwood. Councillor Roller, Councillor Cole, if you can remember.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Is it me? Sorry. Yeah.
You tried. We've already considered this in November, and I'll be honest, I was one of those that voted against it in November, but taking what other council said at the time, I thought it was a fair decision. They agreed to open, I've looked at the hours, they gave planning permission for it to be open 80 hours a week, which is ample consideration in my opinion. So that has to be taken into account, and I don't think anyone would disagree that the Sikhs are doing very good work in the community and will continue to do good work in the community. Well, given that, we've got to consider planning reasons, okay, why this can be refused, and I want to highlight those. The first one I have to look at is the over-intensification of the site. They've already got planning permission for 80 hours. I think that will be ample. And they're asking for, I was trying to tot up the figures, it's nearly 120 hours a week they would like to be open. Secondly, look at the fence that's proposed. Having listened to the evidence and having been there on the site myself, I think the offence won't be oppressive. If it's needed to control noise, it's probably too much. That fence will be oppressive to the people who live there. So I don't think that should go up. Thirdly, we've had the evidence of someone from the fire service saying that because of that fence, it won't be able to turn around. There will not a fire engine, if we had to go onto that site, will not be able to turn around. So that's a third consideration. Fourthly, we've had evidence from people in the community who consider it harmful. And although I don't take that into account too much, because I think I don't think they would intend to harm the community, the Sikhs. But we have to listen to what other people have to say. And on balance, probably not a planning consideration. I don't think it'd be that harmful. And fifthly, the effects of the setting on a listed building, we've heard the evidence of the people who own the building, new house, and I think on balance, if they get this planning application through, I think it will have a bad effect on the setting of a listed building. So overall, there are five reasons, although one, I'm teetering on one, whether it will be harmful to the community. 5 reasons why we could refuse this decision. But I'm not moving that, I'm just putting all those out for consideration.
Between you, who was next?
Thank you, Chair. As one of the ward councillors for this, it's been a tough one. It's been going on for a long time, and obviously there's a lot of strong feeling on both sides on this. So it's a shame that it has had to come to this. Really, I would have liked to have seen an agreement beforehand, but obviously we've got to assess the application in front of us. One point I just want to raise is about I'd like to get your view on the concerns raised about access for fire. So if you could just say something on that.
Through you, Chair. Steve Sampson, Highways Development Management. Since around October 2018 until the beginning of March, we've been in consultation with the fire service. Actually, the head of the fire engineering and planning and licensing of West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue. They seem fairly happy with the application in terms, as long as there's access to the site, there's an email trail, there's sure no concerns, and from our point of view, that's sort of good enough from our stance. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, can I just quickly come back on that? So, Fire have come back and said that they're happy, and we've got evidence to sort of to back that up as well.
Sorry.
Okay. This is going to be tough of either way, and I think people, whatever decision we make here, it's going to upset someone. For me, it's finely balanced. I'm minded to support the application rather than the refusal, because I do believe there's community benefit here. It is a shame about the fencing. It would have been great if we could get the fencing down and do something with that. Now I understand that's not potentially an option right now because of the noise situation. So that is a real shame. But hopefully we can, whatever happens, we can try to come together on this at the end, because the important thing is making sure we've got support in the community. But I'll leave it at that for now.
It's Councillor Homewood now, then Councillor Oller.
Okay. So, first of all, this application obviously came back in November, and the committee were happy with that application. So, from my own perspective, the first thing that I can say is that in terms of the use of the building as a Gurdwara and community building, I've got no issues with that, and in fact I would like to see that happen, and that's why I supported the application last time. I think we've just got to look at the context here, which was set out by some of the people speaking. This is in a very built-up area in terms of residential properties in Huddersfield, and we've got this one small area which has, a Grade 2 style listed building that's been there since the 1500s, in a very in an historic setting with ancient woodland and a footpath. And I think we really need to think carefully about how we look after those sorts of sites. And whilst I absolutely accept we've got to put a modern usage on sites, we don't want things to fall into disrepair. We do need to, I think...
Councillor Munro, you've got your speech.
We do need to consider the impact on things we do, and we need to mitigate impacts as much as possible. When the last application came, there was a lot of discussion about what fencing should be there. And my reason for supporting the application was because I felt we came to a good compromise of there being fencing that was necessary for security reasons, but also gave that view of an open place, so you could see the historic nature of the site including the building and what was the farm and would be the Gurdwara, and I felt that that worked. My concern now is I just don't see how, from that basis, I can then go to a position of saying that fixed structure acoustic wall is acceptable, because to me it's unquestionable that it will damage the setting of the building. And I did point out to members on the bus as we went today that at the moment there is hoardings up at the side of the building because of the fire damage, but ultimately that entrance is a side entrance to that property. So it is the view that you get when you're living in that part of the property. It's not a side of the building. So that's my concern. My second point I just want to make is that all of the reason for the wall is about the intensification of the site and the usage. And I believe from what has been said by the applicants and what I know generally that the use of that site is very unlikely to reach that level. And my question is, could there not be a more thoughtful application that balanced how much the site will be used, and perhaps for occasions where there would need to be additional people, perhaps that could be done on a temporary basis for the main festivals and things like that. Because I think if we could come to a solution which didn't require that wall, we could preserve the setting and still have the community usage. So my view is, on balance, looking at just the application now, I would support the officer's recommendation to refuse, because I just don't feel that I can support the 2+ metre wall. Thanks, Chair.
Do you in fact move support, or are you willing to wait?
I'll move the officer's recommendation, yeah.
Councillor Ola.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's a bit sad that it's come to this, really, and I think Harpreet has hit the nail on the head. From the first application, it was about the fencing, and it's still at that now. With regards to the wooden acoustic fencing, I think that they've achieved the best that they can, but there is a question to say that once the ivy starts growing and it starts growing up, would it all blend in to the way that it looks like? I don't think there's any concerns with fires and things like that. I do think that there will be some community benefit. I have no doubt about that. I don't buy into the argument that you can have too many community centres, because once they're all working collaboratively, I think they'll support one another. So, with regards to the opening times, because that's been another issue that's come up. This is a place of worship, like any place of worship. They're not going to have a set time where they open at 9 o'clock in the morning and shut at 5 o'clock in the evening. They're not going to have that. It is going to be anti-social, unsociable hours. It's got to suit the congregation and everything else. But I am also, like Harpreet, minded to support this application. That's it.
Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, can I first of all say, I heard some members saying something here too. I don't believe any faith community in this country, even over the world, would have their faith service in community center where is alcohol going, youth activities going, or nightclub or pubs, as been mentioned by some people here. I don't think any faith community will do or use the provision in the local community center. Particularly with the Sikh community, whose principle, whose holy book teach them not to have smoking in the prayer, no drinking alcohol, whatever, no meat, only vegetarian food or soft drink like that. So, it's very clear we all need to understand the principle of the Sikhism, as some people have said here. I'm going back to the application. In last November, I proposed and we moved it to approve the application, and it was approved with the delegation to officer for further condition. I want to ask both the community around in the area and the Sikh community, they are very good people in the both community around there. Once the application approved today, to sit together, if they have any misunderstanding, and they sit together to sort it out, rather than to oppose each other.
Councillor Sokol, you're making an assumption there that
Yeah,
it hasn't been resolved yet.
I would like to have a good neighborhood within the area. That's what my aim is. I know it's not a planning matter, but I have to say that. Yeah. Chair, with regard to the fence, yeah, I think last time we agreed to lower down the height of the fence from 3 or something like that to 2.5 meters. And I believe the applicant, which is the Gurdwara, they agreed to put this fence back away from the listed building, away from the right-of-way, which is footpath, and their own land. I don't think it will impact on the listed building. If you look at the listed building now, in the report he said the listed building already been divided into 2 dwelling, in 2 sub-unit, and do you think it is still listed building? It's now correct. It's in the report, 2 sub-divisions. Yeah. So, with regard to the question have been raised about the fire service, it's quite clear here on the report by the officer, West Yorkshire Fire Service, no ground to object if access to the site is maintained for emergency use. It's already undertaken by the applicant. They will maintain that. So there is no objection from the highways, no objection from public right-of-way. You say big comments now received. And highway say no objection. Kirklees building control require application to building control for material change. That's material change. Environment service, no objection, subject to condition. The number they mentioned that is only 120 people, they say, but it's not, it won't be every day. The time mentioned here is about they open 4 o'clock. It say in the report that 4 o'clock there will be only 2 people there who look after there or prepare the langar, whatever the accountants there. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't see there are any reason to refuse this application. So what I will do, I move to approve the application, not the officer recommendation, to move to approve the application today and give any delegation power or to put any condition and give the delegation power to officer. And I will be happy if all the community around in the area, which I said earlier, to sit together to sort out any difference between them or myself. Thank you.
If you're moving officers, no, you're voting against, you're moving for approval. I've already had a mover for refusal. So have I got, first of all, I'll ask for the refusal. I got that first. So is anybody prepared to second the refusal? Councillor Munro? You will, right. So have we now got a second? We have. So we'll play that one out when we finished the presentations. I've got down here now to speak Councillor Butt and then Councillor Munro. Councillor Griffiths first, Councillor Butt, and then I don't know whether Councillor Munro wanted or not. She did have a light on, so I took that.
Yes, I did.
Right, I'll keep that order. So now we'll have Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just to address, I know that we have had a report from the officer saying that the fire service doesn't have a problem. What I jotted down during the remarks from members of the public about turning is that we have to bear in mind that this is the building that's going to be on fire if the fire engine needs to turn round in that car park, and presumably the people attending the building will not, in the presence of a fire, leave all their cars in the way of turning. There's been a remark that the fence is oppressive. Well, I think we should look at the conker trees because they're a hell of a lot higher. 4 a.m. coming and going doesn't sound great, but I am reassured that that is simply a couple of caretakers to set up for events. I live next door to a road where people come and go 24/7 at 30 miles an hour, and that isn't going to be happening there, and I think there'll be very little noise resulting from that. With regard to what you can do within so many yards of a listed building, we do have to bear in mind that we don't live in a museum, and things are built in Stratford-on-Avon still. And yes, I don't like car parks, but in order to create this car park, we're not taking away a rose garden, we're taking away a bit of waste ground, actually. Lastly, personally, I don't have a religious bone in my body, but I have appreciated over the years what has been provided by various religious communities, and certainly Sikhs, where there's always food available in the temple, and they always provide a welcome to people of every religion and of none, and I appreciate that, and I will be supporting the application.
Councillor Butt.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm not going to repeat everything that everybody has said. My main thing that I was looking at was actually the fencing and the fire service, and my colleague Councillor Griffiths has spoken about that, so I'm not going to repeat. Whenever we've seen any communities, and especially the Sikh community, and the immense work that we've seen that they've done in terms of seva, I think it's called seva, that they do, the langars they provide, which is the opening of the Gurdwara for free food for everybody and anybody. Given the scale of homelessness that we have, given the scale of people using food banks, given the dire poverty that we see in certain areas, it's a very welcome addition that the Gurdwara provides. I also live near a mosque which is open 24 hours a day, theoretically. I think any religious institution would love a congregation of 120 people there every day, any day. That's probably an exception rather than the rule in terms of that kind of congregation. And in terms of the great work that they do, in terms of the great work that they do in terms of cleaning up the floods that happened a few years ago, and called the Sikh community were there with every member of every community that were there doing the cleanups, the community projects that the communities get involved in, that's actually coordinated through the Gurdwaras that are done there. And therefore, with everything that everybody said and passionate arguments from both sides, I will be supporting the application today.
Councillor Munro.
Well, I just wanted to say that my concern is that the fence will, I think personally, the fence will impact on the setting of the house. And I'm concerned about the times, because I appreciate that it's a place of worship. So I do think that there will be people coming and going at those times in the early mornings at 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. because people may want to arrive there, to be there when the sun rises, or etc., or worship at those times. So I think I think the likelihood is there will be more people there, and there won't just be 2 people there. So I would, so that's why I would not be supporting it today, and would go with the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Are there any further speakers? I don't want repeats. Well, I'm proposing now to put forward, as it was put forward first from Councillor Homewood and seconded. All those in favour of officer's recommendation, please show. Against?
That's fallen.
And now, reasons. Numerous. What I would like to say, though, I'd just like a double check on that fire business. On the fire, I think that I need to be reassured that that is safe.
Through you, Chair, in terms of the move that Councillor Sokol's put forward to approve it, is that the public benefits of the proposed development outweigh the less than significant harm to the setting of the listed building? Thank you, Chair.
Right, so I'll put that to the vote now then. All those in favour, please show. Got it, would you? Against?
The application is approved.
Right, we'll move on then to page 67, which is Corby, Birkby Road, Birkby. I did say page 67, Corby, Birkby Road, Birkby.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Nick Hurst, Planning Officer. This application seeks the demolition of one dwelling and the erection of 5. The application was previously considered by committee on the 7th of March. Members resolved to defer the application to allow negotiations on reducing the number of dwellings to 4 or less. This was because 5 units was considered an overdevelopment which harmed the amenity of neighbouring residents and the visual character of the area. This image shows the front elevation of Corby. There are no objections to demolition of the actual dwelling itself. Current image showing the rear garden, just an understanding of the existing layout. From the previous committee, the applicant was unwilling to reduce the number of units from 5. Seeking to overcome members' concerns, they have amended the plan to introduce a 3-metre tall boundary fence to the south with additional indicative planting. If you can see the colour, the green along the side is 1.8 with 3 metres along the south boundary here. So additionally, a plan demonstrating the density of surrounding development has been provided alongside a statement assessing the comparative nearby development density. This cross-section shows the arrangement of the fence, and you will note the height differences with the development site being this side and neighbours on this side. In terms of the actual dwellings, each is a bespoke design, however they share architectural features and have a coherent appearance, with this being plot 4, just as a typical example. The report before members outlines officers' full assessment of the proposal. Officers consider the amendments to the scheme and the further details provided, including the density study, have not satisfactorily addressed the resolution of committee, nor overcome the concerns raised. In summary, as unallocated land with an existing residential use, the principle of residential development is considered acceptable. However, the proposal is considered to be an overdevelopment of the site. The scale and massing of the dwellings would result in a cramped form of development which fails to respect the established spacious character of the area. In turn, the close proximity of the proposed dwellings to existing neighbouring residents which is out of keeping with the established space standards established by the area. During the course of the application, issues including highways, ecology, drainage have been addressed and overcome. Nonetheless, for the given reasons, officers now recommend refusal, with nothing further to add, Chair.
We have a couple of speakers. We have Christopher Harden, who's an objector.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Frankly, I was quite surprised that the applicant is returning to the committee with exactly the same plans that you had asked them to reconsider at the March meeting. That's not a lot of progress in 3 months. Nothing appears to have changed except proposing the erection of a very high fence to screen the development from the residents of neighbouring properties. We've heard a lot about fences recently. The fact that looking at a fence is better than looking at the new development doesn't say much for the aesthetic qualities of the new development. The planning officer has provided you with the rationale why this application should be refused outright. I don't think a second deferral is a viable option. The developer has had the opportunity to listen to your concerns and has not done so. The ward councillors in the update report have provided their assessment based on their discussions with residents, which in the main reflect the contents of the officer's report. I've previously heard the argument that if an application is refused, then the applicant will appeal, which they may win. If you were to take that approach, there is no point in having a committee to provide the checks and balances and represent the people who elected you. All decisions might as well be delegated to officers, which I don't think any of us would wish for. If you could not approve a 5-house development in March, then I don't think you should be able to approve a 5-house development today. So I would respectfully request that you demonstrate consistency and go with the recommendation of officers and refuse this application. Thank you for your time.
We have Andy Rockby, who is speaking in support.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. My name is Andy Rushby, and I'm a principal of Ascent Planning Consultancy, which is based in Huddersfield. The applicant has asked me to speak in support of the application at the meeting today. Your officer report asserts that the proposed development will result in a cramped and incongruous form of development due to its density and the scale of proposed buildings. You will note in your report, paragraph 10.5, that your officer makes a subjective comment that the area is characterised by large detached dwellings set in generous curtilages. This is patently not the case, as the development to the south and west on Inglewood Avenue, the development to the north east on Berkshire Close, and properties to the north on Birkby Road and Princewood Lane are all typical residential layouts in this area, and few properties, to my mind, can be properly described as being within generous curtilages. The proposed development is therefore considered to be typical of surrounding layouts. Paragraph 10.9 of your report states that the proposed units are proportionately larger in their plots. Once again, this is a subjective view and not one which can be substantiated. Your update contains information on building to curtilage ratios for both the proposed development and development immediately to the south on Inglewood Avenue. You will note that the ratios for the proposed development, which are all less than 30%, are comparable to those ratios in Inglewood Avenue. With regard to the scale of buildings, these are considered to be in keeping with the scale of buildings elsewhere in the area. All proposed buildings are 2-storey, as are the vast majority of dwellings elsewhere, and the built form of each plot is less than 30% of its curtilage. In terms of separation distances between buildings, policy BE12 of the UDP no longer applies, but I believe that there is adequate space about buildings to give a good level of residential amenity to both the proposed occupiers of the new dwellings and to at least preserve the residential amenity enjoyed by the occupiers of nearby existing dwellings. Your officer report goes to great lengths to describe separation distances within the proposed development and states in paragraph 10.22 that these are consistently lower than that of surrounding dwellings. However, the only plot of concern appears to be plot 5 and its relationship to properties on Inglewood Avenue. In this respect, I would argue that the proposed separation distances do not, as alleged, cause material harm through being overbearing, and that, in my view, the fact that the properties on Inglewood Avenue are elevated, there is mature vegetation on the boundary that can be the subject of a condition not permitting its removal, plus the provision of a 3-metre fence to the boundary to mitigate any potential harm to residential amenity. Finally, whilst detailing local plan policies, your officer report singularly fails to point out that the NPPF states in section 11, making effective use of land, paragraph 122, that planning policies and decisions should support development that makes efficient use of land, taking into account the desirability of maintaining an area's prevailing character and setting, and the importance of securing well-designed, attractive, healthy places. The MPPF is so concerned with making the most effective use of land that it gives a whole section to itself, as it does to other planning matters.
Thank you.
Green's heritage. Thank you.
Members, Councillor Uller, Councillor Uppel.
Yes, thank you, Chair. At the last committee, I think everyone, all the members said that we felt that the number was too high. We were looking somewhere in the 3 and 4 mark. It's really nice to see that the applicant's taken some of that into consideration and tried to put a bit of screening up. However, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation to refuse this application. Thank you. I'm moved.
That's seconded by Councillor Firth. Will you wish to speak now?
Yeah, he's basically said what I was going to say, so I agree.
Councillor Griffiths, do you want to bother? No? Shall I put it to the vote? All those in favour, please show. That's our officer's recommendation, of course.
Refused.
So the next one is page 87, and it's Eastwood House, Greencliff, Honley.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon all. My name is Colin Harrison. I'm the case officer responsible for this application at Eastwood House, Greencliff, Honley. The application is being recommended for approval by officers. Members visited the site earlier today. The application site consists of a large dwelling constructed under a 1987 outline permission and 92 reserved mass application. Under this approval, permitted development rights were removed for all buildings and extensions on the site. The dwelling has a large amount of domestic curtilage also. There are also a number of trees covered by TPOs within the application site, which are also preserved through the site being designated within the Honley Conservation Area. The application is seeking permission for the erection of extensions and alterations to dwelling, erection of detached garage with office/store above and related landscape works. Both extensions are to be 2-storey, here and there. The materials are to match the host dwelling in its entirety. All elements of the proposal also include the use of traditional architectural features to appease with the conservation area setting. The first application is for this lounge area. As I said before, it will be 2-storey and it is almost built on the exact same footprint as the existing garage. The only difference being it's the 2-storey with a 6-metre height. The second extension is to incorporate the existing utility room, again 2-storey. It shall have the same projection, 2.6 metres, as the utility room, but it is 5 metres wide, as seen there. The existing driveway is also to be extended through the site, down towards the shed area, you can see in the distance, with the detached garage built within this bank and submerged. The driveway will stay at the same level as existing, with the garage to be submerged by 30 centimetres below the existing driveway level. So the proposed driveway, the proposed garage is to have external dimension 6.7 by 7.7 metres long, height of 6.4 metres. The garage is set 15.5 metres away from the closest dwelling on St Mary's Mews. Officers believe this 15.5 metre separation distance and the offset position of the garage away from being in line with the rear elevation of number 8 St Mary's Mews would mitigate any significant impact on the residential amenity of the neighbouring occupiers in regard to overshadowing, overbearingness and privacy. On the screen is a photo taken from St Mary's Mews. Trees have been raised as an ongoing issue throughout this application, both by councillor interest and public objection. Particularly ones located along this boundary. Protected trees were moved under a 2017 TPO application, with a condition stipulating that it should be replanted within the year. However, they weren't replanted, and at the time of application, at the time of my first site visit, they weren't replanted. However, since then the trees have been replanted in accordance with that application, and therefore Kirklees Council Trees have no objection to the scheme, providing it is done in conjunction with the arboricultural methods statement. Thank you.
Yes, we have some speakers. We've got Val Javin, who objects to the application.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to this application this afternoon. My name is Val Javin. I've lived in the small development of St Mary's Mews in Honley since the houses were built in 1985. Numbers 8 to 11, which front onto the application site, were carefully positioned to maximise privacy for all neighbours within the development. Our properties have very small gardens, as you saw this morning when you kindly visited the site. Our main living areas face what was a substantial wooded area, which ensured both a green environment and that the front elevation of our homes was not overlooked. In the early 90s, plans were proposed to develop the site of what is now Eastwood House. After many revisions of those plans under public inquiry, permission was eventually granted for the house and garage to be built at the Cemetery Road end of the site in order to maintain the privacy of the established properties, specifically those in St Mary's Mews, and to safeguard the wooded nature of the site. In the last 2 years, substantial work has been done to remove mature trees and clear shrubbery. The most concerning work has been the removal of 6 trees, including 3 mature beeches, a larch, and the pruning and thinning of a number of other trees. As the structural framework of a number of mature trees is no longer in place, we have for the first time a virtually uninterrupted view of both Eastwood House and the property beyond. The extent of the effect on the trees and the skyline is clearly visible in photographs submitted to the planning department. Had we been aware of the plant tree work, we would have pressed to ensure that the replacement trees were planted where the mature trees have actually been felled, which would have in time, we feel, re-established the wooded environment and maintained our privacy. Until this major clearance work on what was a substantially wooded site, it had not been possible to see Eastwood House, a large detached property, one which the applicants now wish to extend. I feel our privacy has been removed and that the site will be dominated by buildings rather than by woodland. My other major concern is the proposal to build a new double-height, double garage immediately in front of my property. It will stand directly in front of my living area just beyond the boundary wall, which is in itself only 7.5 metres from my windows and is situated on the highest part of the application site.
30 seconds.
Above the level of the garden. The garage will stand as high as the eaves of my house and will dominate the landscape, and its proposed use as park storage and office space as well as garaging raises concerns to me that in the future this may be subject to conversion to another dwelling right on my boundary. Thank you.
We have Liz Oldfield, who also objects to the plan.
Good afternoon. My name is Liz Oldfield. I live at number 9 St Mary's Mews, just over the boundary wall from Eastwood House. Our gardens are very small. The proposed development is very large and close, especially the garage. It takes just 8 steps from my patio windows to the edge of the garden. Some of the remaining pollard trees bordering this division have very, very thin, spindly branches. They provide leaf cover at the moment, as you will have seen in the site visit, but for 6 months of the year we can see straight through the site now, which, as Val said, we never could before. Again, there are external lights on Eastwood House, which illuminates the whole building, makes it feel very big and close. We're worried about the implication of the architect's heritage statement, which says the side extension has been designed to complement the existing building with a concrete tiled roof supported by oak frame and stone masonry. Substantially glazed in order to be as transparent as possible to take full advantage of the views. Those views look directly across to St Mary's Mews, our lounges and our bedrooms. We feel that the whole focus of Eastwood House has been turned from looking across the valley towards Castle Hill to it now being towards us in St Mary's Mews. All the social outdoor space is coming even closer, together with the driveways, traffic noise, lights, plus a huge towering garage which will come up to our eaves. The double height, double garage just beyond our border is a major worry to us. Not only will it make us feel walled in, but the potential noise element is a serious concern. Planning permission is sought for an upper floor office or storage. It has, however, been suggested to us that it could be used for a hobby room. Hobbies could be anything from embroidery to drumming, and the noise would be directly outside our houses. One further point, I'm presuming that council officers have taken into consideration access to this site because there will be very large lorries to carry in substantial material. It seemed to me that Church Street was out of the question. It's far too narrow and parked up. Netherton is impossible due to a narrow single-width bridge at the bottom of Sentry and also a 3-ton restriction imposed there. That just leaves Thurston Road, which in places is only 5 metres wide, and lots of cars parked down there. I say this because 12 months ago I took delivery of 1 pallet of paving.
The time is up. Thank you.
Impossible. Thank you.
We have Elaine Bedford, who's the applicant.
Thank you. What do I do? Press the button. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. I'm surprised and disappointed that this rather straightforward application has been brought to your attention, and I believe this is because some of the key objections are factually incorrect. We have been mindful of our neighbours, sensible and diligent in our approach, I believe. Our application is recommended by your officers, and I hope that you'll be able to support it. Firstly, the trees. We are very fortunate to have beautiful, mature trees in our gardens. In fact, it's why we bought the house. The 6 trees that were felled with the relevant permissions in 2017, not, as on the objections, 2018. We bought the property in 2017. And since then, in autumn of 18, we have removed poorly maintained shrubs for a test dig, ground tree roots down to prevent fungus, which is best practice, and removed a large tree stump we were led to believe was offensive. When we bought the house, we inherited the outstanding replanting order from the previous owners. Sadly, the arboriculturalist said, "Let us down," and we missed the planting window. We were then badly advised by an architect that we should wait before replanting. I'm very sorry. We have now fully complied with that planting order. It is and always has been our intention to maintain and to conserve the trees. The garage. Before buying the property, we took professional advice and were told the best option was to position the garage dug into the bank, to be within the council guidelines and to have least visual impact to our neighbours. The planned garage has no windows facing our neighbours. Following the neighbours' comments, the architect produced a plan showing the elevation from St Mary's Mews, and we assured them of more planned landscaping. We had received no feedback and hoped that we had allayed concerns. Since then, we have agreed with the planning officer to reposition the garage to reduce the height by a further 30 centimetres. Comments about increased noise are unfounded. My electric car will be no more than 10 metres closer, and the plans for the upstairs is for my hobby, which is flower arranging, not a noisy hobby. The house, we are not intending to turn the garage to a dwelling. The house extension was developed last year, and the objection says that we are changing the elevation of the property. That is not true. We redid the plans.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I stay here?
Councillors, yes. Councillor Griffiths, yes. Councillor McGuinn. Griffiths.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, good point actually, because when we made the site visit this morning, the trees were in full foliage, and it was very useful to see the photographs of when the trees don't have leaves on. I think the double height garage represents overdevelopment, and I can't believe that within that house there isn't a space for flower arranging. And so, in general, that would make me predisposed to be against the application.
Can I move for deferral? I'm absolutely in agreement with Nell there. She'll be surprised to know. It's the height of the garage I'm really worried about. I don't think it's necessary to have the height of a garage. It's just preposterously too big, or overdevelopment. And so I'm asking for a deferral, because I don't think we've got any objections to anything else that they're doing. It's just the garage. So could I move for a deferral of that to go back to officers to discuss the garage?
Move it, but we'll hopefully wait till you either get a seconder or somebody else will get something else. Okay, I think it's Councillor Uller now, and then Councillor Lawson. Right, Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. On the face of it, this looks like an eminently sensible application, and actually I am going to move that we accept officer's recommendation. I understand that the proximity of the objectors' houses gives them some concern. It would me too, having those kinds of proximities and that kind of effect on your border. However, in cases like this, I always look to the conditions first. It's like reading the end of the book, isn't it? And in there we see the objectors' concerns kind of fairly well addressed. So we have matching materials. That wasn't an objector's concern, but it was one of mine when I went there. We have construction in accordance with the with the tree method statement, which has to be robust, and it has to be accepted, and it has to be adhered to. The garage cannot be converted. It has to come back to this committee for it to be converted. And the withdrawal of PD rights is something I'm usually quite hot on if something is pushing the limits a little. So the withdrawal of PD rights for additional windows in garage, I'd just say I'd probably like to see that extended into full withdrawal of PD rights. Thank you.
Councillor Homewood.
I'll say I'll second the approval of the application. I understand the concerns that have been raised and what people have said, but having gone through the report and what the officers have set out, I don't believe there's really a basis to refuse on what's been said. So I'd support approval.
Councillor Patrick.
All right, that's working now, thank you. Yeah, I haven't got any problems with the extension to the house at all. I've no problems with that. But the garage is too big. It's too high. It's too high. And I would second deferral if I thought they were going to come back with a reduced height on the garage. But if not, I will just vote for refusal. Which seems a shame because everything else is okay as far as I can see. Thank you.
Any submissions? No? I've got a move and a seconder for approval at the moment. Have I got well, we'll see how that goes first with regard to the refusal and the garage business. All those in favour of approval, please show.
Hands raised, please. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All those against? Were there any abstentions? Abstention by... Right. The reason for refusal, I think, I'm assuming here, other councillors might take on board the garage. Yeah, I think that's the sticking point. I thought we had a second. No, I didn't think we had. Councillor Patrick moved refusal. He didn't. No. We got one. Who actually seconded for refusal? You are doing right. That's fine then. No, it's refusal. The reason for refusal is the garage. I'm not. No.
Is that on the grounds of the height of the garage is visually harmful then? On that ground? Thank you.
Although refusal for the garage height. Yes.
Okay, so just keep hands raised, please.
Against? Application is refused.
Right. We go now to page 99, 364 Meltham Road, Netherton.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. My name is William Simcock and I am the case officer for this application. Let's get the first slide up. The site comprises number 364 Meltham Road, which is here. It's a hair salon with an apartment above at second floor, which forms the end property in a row of modern commercial premises, and some associated land, which is located on the northwestern side of Netherton Road. And it is just within the boundary of Netherton Local Centre. The main commercial part of the centre lies to the northeast or right in this picture, or to the southeast, southwest or to the left. Commercial uses give way to residential. And these photographs help to show the context. This is looking from the northeast towards the site here, and this is looking from the opposite direction, the site being here. The proposal is for the erection of a building to be used as a hot food takeaway, and this would involve excavating the banking and to form the building here. Officers recommend refusal of the development for 3 reasons. The first is that the positioning and built form of the development would be out of keeping with the visual character of the area, and that it would be close to the highway boundary and set substantially forward of the existing residential and commercial uses either side. The second is that it would be incompatible with the neighbouring residential uses, owing to the potential for noise disturbance and odours, which it is considered cannot be adequately mitigated under planning powers by means of a condition. It is noted that the closing time stated on the form would be midnight, but even with an earlier closing time, such as 11 p.m, there would be noise generated by the takeaway and by customers at this location, which is at present likely to be quiet and not have much activity on the street at this hour. A third reason is highway safety. It has not been demonstrated that safe and satisfactory car parking arrangements for staff, customers or delivery drivers could be provided within or in the vicinity of the site. As explained in the report, there is a large car park along the frontage of 364 Meltham Road. This is quite heavily used, and during the daytime it's possible it will be less heavily used in the evenings when demand for takeaway is likely to be at its peak, but again this hasn't been demonstrated by means of objective evidence, nor is it being clearly shown where the members of staff would park. Any increase in off-road parking at this location would be extremely hazardous, and any development that's likely to give rise to this should be resisted. There's also a lack of clarity about refuse collection arrangements, and the refuse collection point hasn't been shown on the plan, and it's noted that when the door to the internal bin store here would actually be adjacent to a parking space, and so it could be difficult or even impossible to wheel the bins out on collection day. And finally, I would ask members to note that there has been a petition and a number of individual letters received in opposition to the proposal, 59 signatures on the petition and 16 individual letters in all. The plans were amended during the application process. It was originally to have included a bedsit at upper floor level and be a two-storey structure. The reduction to a single-storey structure and other changes to design have not addressed the concerns that officers have raised, and which is believed cannot be overcome. It is therefore recommended that the proposal be refused. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, members. I'm here to speak in support. The site, as you will have seen, is prominent raised ground adjacent to the existing shops. It is a leftover piece of land. The proposals previously included a bedsit at first floor level, but now consist merely of a stone single-storey takeaway set in from the back edge of the pavement by some 3 metres. Its roof will barely be seen above the retaining wall to the dwelling at number 366 when approaching from the Meltham direction. Officers do not object to the application on local plan policy or public health grounds. However, 3 reasons for refusal are recommended, which I deal with in turn. Firstly, siting and scale. As already noted, the building will be virtually invisible when approaching from Meltham. It will only be appreciated when approaching through the centre of Netherton, but only and appropriately in the context of the adjoining parade of shops. Second point, residential amenity. It is considered that issues of control of odour can be dealt with by a condition attached to the grant of planning permission. It is requested that the takeaways are allowed to remain open until 12 midnight. This is bearing in mind that in the evenings there are 2 other takeaways nearby which will generate traffic together with the fairly busy Meltham Road. It is considered that toing and froing to the takeaway will not make conditions materially worse. Third issue, parking. Space for staff parking is available at the rear of the premises on land in my client's ownership. Details can be agreed. Fourthly, bin store. An area for storage of refuse bins is proposed within the building. Bins can be wheeled to the front of the building but clear of the pavement on collection days. A point I would also make, my clients would accept that the premises should not be open before 5 p.m, such as to overcome parking congestion issues. I would urge you to accept that issues identified by officers are not such as to justify refusal.
30 seconds.
Or can be overcome by attaching conditions to the grant of planning permission. I would therefore ask you not to accept the officer's recommendation, but to delegate to officers the decision to grant planning permission subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Members. Councillor Munro.
Hello. Just before I say anything, could you just bring up the first slide, please? Is that it? Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted. My concerns are in relation to the fumes and how that might affect the buildings that are close to the proposal. And on that basis, I would like to support the officer's recommendation in that we refuse this application. Thank you.
Buckle, then Councillor Uppel and Councillor Griffiths. Sorry, you're seconding that.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Reading through this report, I think the original application was a two-story proposal, this building. Now with amended plans, it come down a single story, yeah? And while I was on the site visit this morning, I asked the question to officer, how far is from the inside from the pavement? Is 3 meters. It's well away from the 3 meters. And I don't think it will be blocking any view, the people coming from Meltham side as well. At the moment, it's a grown-up trees. I think that looks horrible there. So it's that piece of land is not used for anything. So what I know, as Malcolm has said, if we agree with condition to opening time at the moment is say 12 o'clock till 12, I think if we put some condition with opening time 5 o'clock, after 5 or 6, you know, when the other shop might have closed down, so there won't be any parking or traffic problem that time. So I move to support, I support the application to move it. Thank you.
Councillor Patrick.
Right, something wrong with this one, I tell you. When I get down there on the council day, I want to fix it. Who sits here normally?
Your colleague?
No, the full council. Anyway, let me get on with it. The great problem I have with this is odours. Because you've got a single story with it shows on the pictures a small chimney at the top of the single story. And all those residents next door are above that. They are going to be bothered by odours. They really are, unless they can come up with some way of putting a very large chimney on that so that it's above the eaves of the houses above. They are going to be bothered. And he's laughing, but they're not going to be able to open their windows unless they like the smell of takeaways. So I will vote against this unless somebody convinces me that the odours can be overcome.
If you're moving opposition to refusal, it's been moved refusal. You're seconding it, right? Can I just say, I'll just add a little bit of info here. I used to run on that road. I did it for over 20 years. It's bad enough coming up the hill, but the wind was always against you. So in other words, the wind's going to go down right in front of all those shops, 99 times out of 100. So. Councillor up. I'll give her a chance to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I think Malcolm's proposed this 5 till 12 o'clock opening hours, hasn't he? But I can imagine the traffic's still going to be, parking's still going to be an issue, because I would have thought with takeaways you're more likely to have it in an evening anyway rather than during the day. So that's all I was going to add.
Right, it's been moved and seconded for the officer's recommendation, which is to refuse. All those in favour, please show. Against? Abstentions?
Applications refused.
We move on then to page 109, which is Longdon Avenue, Beaumont Park.
Thank you, Chair. Members visited the site this morning. The application is brought to committee at the request of ward member for the reasons outlined in the report. The application site is a semi-detached bungalow and sits amongst other similar scale properties. The application seeks approval for extensions to the rear, including a dormer and a dormer to the front. As noted on site this morning, I made reference to an application that had previously been approved for the dormer to the front and this single-storey element here. Also approved under a previous application was a third dormer situated in a similar position but set up from the ridge roof, the eaves. The scheme now proposed does not achieve a significant difference in terms of floor area internally, but the difference in design terms is significant. The eaves level will be significantly above that of the existing bungalow, appearing at odds with the existing building and roof profile. The resulting side elevation will be 2 storeys, reinforcing the mass of the extensions proposed. As a result, the development would fail to respect the proportions of the host building, appearing visually incongruous, thereby disproportionate and not subservient as required by policy LP24. The application is recommended for refusal as outlined in the report. Nothing further to add, Chair.
Councillor Ola.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, Emma. I think the officers have got it wrong on this one. I really do. I don't think that it is overbearing. I don't think it is out of character. If there was significant overbearing and out of character, representations would have been made either side. I don't believe. How many representations have been made?
Through you, Chair, there's been no representation.
Councillor Lawson and then Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. On site today, just goes to show you the value of site visits, it was quite clear to me that the site and the massing would be inappropriate at that location, and I would move to accept officer's recommendation.
Sokol.
Yeah. Chair, when I look on the rear side, the dormer window there, it looks horrible with the flat roofs, yeah? And I accept this is a bungalow type house, but then next door on number, I think, 40 is a 2-story house, yeah? I think the proposal, if we approve that, I think it improve the rear side of the building. And they already got some planning permission which not have been implemented. This is only something like to make amended application, this one, I think it won't looks bad, as some members might think. I think it will improve. There might be a need for the extra room in there, so I move it to approve the application. Thank you.
You're going to get a chance now. It's been moved and seconded for officers' recommendation here. All those in favour, please show.
So who seconded it for officers?
No, that was Councillor Griffiths seconded it. Griffiths seconded it. All against?
3.
Applications refused.
Page 117, and it's...
Thank you, Chair. Members
It's a
have a
cat
full
cage.
report in front of them.
Can we just say,
Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. Councillor Griffiths just mentioned to me in the break that she's become aware that she knows the applicant, but not sufficient to prejudice a judgment in the public interest. Sorry.
The cat.
Thank you. Members have a full report in front of them. The application seeks permission for the erection of a caging shed to the front of the property. The application is brought to committee at the request of former Councillor Bellamy for the reasons outlined in the report. The site sits on the edge of Marsden Conservation Area, which is located here. The cage encompasses most of the front garden, projecting forward of the front elevation to the boundary edge. The shed sits within this, abutting the side and front boundaries. You see the shed there, just within it. It's considered that due to the scale and mass of the development, it would result in an incongruous feature within the street scene and would not preserve the character and appearance of the conservation area, contrary to policies LP24 and LP35. Public benefit does not exist to outweigh the harm, and as such the development is recommended for refusal for the reasons outlined in the report. Nothing further to add, Chair.
I was sorry.
Can I just say before the speakers, it's really hard. Would it not be? Why did we not go on a site visit to this? Would it? Because it's obviously there already. Would it not have been sensible for us to actually see it? Maybe we should defer it and actually see the site, because it's really hard to actually see what's going on there. Oh well, if they want to speak, but I'm just saying it's hard. We're being asked to refuse it, and I can't really. Anyway, just my thoughts.
You can defer it you can move a deferment for a site visit if you feel that strongly. Have you got support? Try it, test it. Are you moving deferment for a site?
Well, that's why I was suggesting yes.
Is that seconded? Is that seconded? Yes. Right. Right. All those in favour, please show. Deferral. For a site visit. Nine. Against? Against? Anybody against? No. Abstentions? Yes. That concludes our meeting today. Thank you very much.